Peace and blessings. This is Art and Hustle, Black Authors Matter, and we are with Miss Miski Harris. How you doing, Miss Harris?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Thank you for joining me. So, today what we are going to do is I want you to share a little bit about who you are, first off, and then we'll get into your books.
Okay. Um, well, Miski Harris is my nom de plume. Uh, I started using that name uh, because I needed to protect my husband. I write gay romantic fiction and gay literature. Um, and in New York, social workers have a morality clause on their licenses, and I didn't want to bring him any bad press, so to speak. Now I just like the name. I like what it stands for. Uh, it's a person of artistic talent and determination, a defender. I I'm a veteran of 10 years in the Air
Thank
Force.
you for your service.
I was in the military when You Bet Not Be Gay turned into Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I had friends in the military who were in the closet, but the person that touched my heart the most was a young woman in basic training. She, for whatever reason, decided that maybe the Air Force just wasn't for her, and her parents and family members gave her bad advice. They told her to go to her leadership and confess to being a lesbian and that they would kick her out. Yeah, they did, but people didn't understand the military. There was actually a rule that said homosexuality is an antithema to good order and discipline. And when they discharged you, it wasn't, a general other than honorable. You got a bona fide bad conduct discharge that would then follow you like a bad sting. So it was life preserving to keep your identity secret. When I first went into the military, they actually used to send patrols out to known establishments to look for military members. President Clinton tried to fix that. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was supposed to make you able to remain in the military long as you didn't tell anybody. And unlike before, they weren't allowed to ask you. Um, yeah, that made it worse uh, because they couldn't ask you, but somebody could turn you in, things like that. So that took military men and women out of the closet and into a footlocker. I was raised in part by a woman who was a lesbian and out. I was born in 1951. It was totally against the law to be gay in New York State until the early 200s. I want to say 2013. Just against the law, period. You took your life in your hands. You really did. I was in the village when Stonewall happened because I was a teenager, and a friend of mine and I went to see Grover Washington at the Purple Onion. Um, I think it was Grover Washington. It was somebody. But we used to go down to the village for jazz, and we saw the ruckus. And typical New Yorker, my friend said, "What do you think's going on?" And I said, "I don't know, but we're going to the train now." You know, you just didn't want to be where there were a lot of police and problems. And what many people don't know is that a lot of the businesses in the village were owned by organized crime.
Mhm.
So if a business was in trouble down there, then the struggle was real and you better get out of the way. The following year, the very first Pride parade was held, but it wasn't a parade, you know, like we have today. It was a protest, and um, back then all we had was gay, lesbian, and transvestite, and what we now call allies, which is what I am. Um, and we all went down in protest of what happened at Stonewall.
So
After that, every year it became an annual event, and it has now bloomed into what we call the Pride Parade.
okay. So what I need you to do, if you will, for me, share a little bit about your books. We know why
Well,
you decided to create them. I need to know uh, about you've written how many? Three?
I have in my Don't Ask, Don't Tell series. Um, I have 3 books. The fourth one is in production.
Okay.
Um, I wrote those because I wanted to see that happy ending, life restoration um, in my characters that I wished my friends had gotten. Um, most of the people I knew back then are deceased, and they died young. Uh, to be out took your life in your hands. It was probably the only thing worse than being black was being black and gay. My motivation, my total motivation for Don't Ask, Don't Tell was to show through my characters that these were people with flesh and blood and that they were entitled to life, love, faith, happiness. Um, so in my first story, my main character was literally thrown under the bus by his lover, who was also his commander. I got letters back thanking me for that story. So, and on top of it all, I don't know if you hear this often, but from authors, but our characters talk to us. We're not crazy; we can hear them. And a minor character in Don't Ask, Don't Tell said, "Wait a minute, I got left behind." You know, and that's actually how I got the title "Collateral Damage."
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm the collateral damage. I got left behind. Everything fell on me. So um, Jordan, in my second story, is actually a parajack, and I'm sorry, parajumper. They belong to search and rescue. He was injured in the Iraqi wars and sent home with a lot of physical damage. Um, and again, uh, I gave Jordan a story that gave him restoration. I I use service dogs in my military stories because they're important to our veterans that come back, especially the ones with PTSD and traumatic brain injury. Which brings me to Gregory and damage control. Um, he had traumatic brain injury, and it in the story it also brings to light the fact that um, everybody doesn't come home and instantly get 100% disability, in spite of what's going on with them. Um, so all of my characters get a second chance at love and at life. In between those, I wrote Cruz. Um, I take Cruz goes back to my old neighborhood where I grew up. And some of the antics in Cruz are things I did as uh, a kid myself. But I in that story, I bring out how um, so often men and women can be grown, older before they can come to terms uh, with the world around them and be who they truly are. Uh, Cruz is probably my favorite because Lyndon, who is the second main character, has a gun toting mama. You know, us mamas, we will take you out over our babies. And in this story, she does. She takes out the man that tries to kidnap and hurt Lyndon. I The heart of all of my stories is what I use to define myself. I believe that you should have love, life, and faith without limitations. Um, I'm often asked why I write gay romance instead of het romance. And I do because I want all of my characters are um, indigent, black, or persons of color. Indigenous, I'm sorry. And because somewhere out there is a 14-year-old boy feeling less than nothing because he likes Johnny instead of Jane. And he has nothing to show him that this can turn out well. All the stories with happy ever afters, um, a lot, I won't say all, but a lot of the stories um, in romance are objectifying. They One character always has to be weak and swoon at the feet of another. My men are all strong. They're real men. They go to the gym. You know, they can hit a moving target at 500 feet without a sight. Uh, Jordan is 5'9" and very thin and has one leg, and he'll whoop your behind. I think we need that. I think we need to stop. When I was growing up, all gay men were called sissies, and I hate that. All lesbian women were called butch. The women fixed their narration. They had a revolution called the lipstick lesbians, and you got famous women like Ellen, um, who's married to a model, and they're both beautiful women. But the men still don't have that. The closest they come is Drag Race. You don't have to look like a woman, act like a woman. You can be a man and love another man. And so I guess I'm just trying to be a part of that group of people that levels the playing field. And as I've explained to my sons, everything starts at home. So I want to do for mine first.
So, if you will, uh, shed a little, I guess you could say, like you've already shared, like why you decided to create these, because of your friends, because of people who you felt that may have not been able to express themselves the way they would like to have expressed themselves.
Right.
Uh, you have a heart for them.
I do.
This would be your reason for wanting to shed light on their experience and being able to help. I'm assuming this come from a long line of family members or family who actually allowed you to become who you were and be who you are. So what you want to do is just help out and allow people to also be helped.
Exactly. It's not a very long line. Actually, I had a hard upbringing, but my aunt loved me and my grandmother loved me, and they made sure that I understood who I was. Um, when I was a child, we didn't have uh, talented and gifted classes and things like that. Um, and so to be who I was very advanced, was problematic.
Okay.
Um, my mother, who was raised by sharecroppers in the South, that scared her because in her day, you know, you could be killed for that.
Exactly.
I I never saw the South of the Mason-Dixon line until I was 19 years old because my mother was so afraid uh, for my safety.
Hmm.
But my aunt and my grandmother would not let that die in me. They encouraged me. Um,
To speak up.
my grandmother threatened me, actually. She had her own grading system. A's were all right and B's were not bad. C's meant you could do better.
So they pushed you to speak basically.
She did. I was writing stories by the time I was 6.
Mm.
I used, back in the day, we used to have these marble notebooks, and I used to fill those things with stories. I've always had a vivid imagination.
Mm.
So um, I love to write.
Okay. So,
And now that my children are grown and everybody's got their own life, I have time to write.
so just to put a little speed to it, uh, you do public speaking.
I never have. I'll tell you a secret. This is easy, but people scare me.
Well, I know you said you've been to conferences, so maybe
Oh
I.
yeah, and I do sit on panels. I suck it up and do it, but even the panels are, you know relatively small groups, and there's a table between us. Um, Book signings and conventions are how you the readers get to meet you,
Mm.
and it's also how I sell autographed copies of my books.
Okay. Uh, Before we leave, I do want you to share where people can actually purchase your book, how they can reach out, get in touch with you, um, and because I want people your audience, to also be able to reach out and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you. Um, I have a website. It's www.miskiharris.com. I'm on all almost all the social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, um, and there's a rumor that I'm on TikTok. I have a granddaughter who's in charge of
Okay.
that. My very next in-person appearance will actually be in the United Kingdom. I'm going to Blackpool.
Because of your book?
Yes.
Hey, congratulations.
Um, After that, I'll be in Perryville, Ohio, um, Savannah, Georgia, Trumbull, Connecticut, and Olathe, Kansas. Um, if you go on Facebook and go to my group, Miski's Mischief Makers, you'll be able to know where I am next. Um, if you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll always know where I am. And I actually give a free download of some short stories.
And if you could give words of wisdom to anybody who's just getting into the author game, or somebody who even been in it for a while but could use a word of wisdom, what would you give
My first word is don't give up.
them?
Um, it's not an easy thing to do, but it is doable. My second one is be absolutely true to who you are. There are trends in literature like they are in anything else. Don't write to the trends, write to your heart. Um, because that's the only way you're going to put out a good product. And the last thing is don't pay anybody to publish your book. There are people out there who are taking advantage, especially of young people new to the game, um, and they charge anywhere from $3,000 to $30,000, promising to publish your book and market your book and make you famous. And that's not how it works. First, they utilize the very systems that are available to you for free. And if you don't know how to find them, send me a DM. I'll tell you how.
Thank you for Miss Miski Harris for jumping on here and sharing your artistry, sharing your life, sharing your friends' lives. Because that is the reason why you decided to create the books that you've created.
Yes.
And continue to being great.
Thank you.
If don't nobody else tell you, love you, and thank you for this wonderful interview.
You're welcome and thank you.